Every piece of gear in your outdoor kit should earn its place. So, what happens when somebody stuffs 25 pieces of gear into one little bag and calls it a survival kit? Well, some of it would look pretty useful, and some of it would look optimistic. Durable dads, brothers from other mothers, and sisters from different misters, thanks for tuning in. Today, we're looking at the Olympia 25-in-1 survival kit. And good news, I'm sparing you the indignity of an unboxing, and I'm definitely not going to spend the afternoon demonstrating 25 individual widgets. Because around here, we've been asking a pretty simple question about gear lately. Does it actually earn its place? This king gives you a whole pile of potential solutions in a package that's really not much bigger than my first aid kit. So we're going to have a quick look at what you actually get in this kit. Then I've picked out 4 things I don't want to trust until I've actually tried them. All right, what we have before us is the contents of said 25-in-1 emergency kit. I'm going to hold each one slowly, and if it brings me joy, I'll keep it. If it doesn't bring me joy, I'll throw it out. Just kidding. We're going to run this down real quick. Mosquito head net. That could be handy. Rave essentials. A whistle, paracord, scissors, carabiner, safety blanket. What's in this is this. Now, this is what I affectionately were going to be calling dirt spoon from now on. It is adjustable, will lock into place. Both of these fold down. Could be handy. Even has a nice little compass in it. They're fond of compasses. I think this is an accessory holder. Okay. Something we've seen in some of our more gory video games, or it could be used as a wire saw, I guess. A knife, nice folding knife, excellent. You never have enough of those, and it's good to have one of these handy. Like to point out that there's the rope cutter right there, so that is a nice little feature. Another knife, so this is just basically a little Swiss Army knife, knockoff. Always handy to have this because it has some tools that you might need. A spork. I don't know. Spork's the wrong word. The spoon with some notches. Anyways. A flashlight that you'll want to note has no batteries in. Okay, so if you had some vague idea that you were going to huck this behind your seat and grab it when you needed it, be aware, if it's a dark night, you're kind of going to be hooped on that one. So go through everything first. Know thine kit. An emergency bracelet. Well, more on that later, because this does many things, apparently. Again, with the compass. Apparently, that's a ferro rod. And that's a striker. Aw, that's so cute. Anyways, talk about this more later. At least they have a big boy ferro rod, full size. Excellent. Okay. And last but not least, a multi-purpose pocket survival tool. If any of you have seen these before, I can pick out, I don't know, 5 out of the 11 features. So anybody want to explain or do a video on what the rest of these are, or just drop them in the comments, because inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, that's about it. So this, well, let's see if it's a survival kit that actually survives. All right, something to note, that the emergency kit and the other kind of medical emergency kit looked to be almost exactly the same size. In fact, the bags, I think, came from the same factory, just they added stickers to these, or tags. Anyways, aggressive use of this may in fact lead to aggressive use of this. Now, just to put some boundaries around this, I am definitely not talking about through hiking here. That's a whole different world. If you're counting every gram you're carrying for the next 100 kilometers, you're going to make some very different choices. I'm talking about the kind of stuff I actually do. Dad and kids, day hike, fishing, exploring around camp, maybe heading away from the truck for a few hours with a day pack. And for that use case, this thing is small enough that bringing it along really isn't ridiculous. But small isn't free. Everything I carry takes up some space and adds some weight. So if this is going in my day pack, or even earning a permanent home in lieu, the stuff inside still has to be useful. And there are 4 things in here that I particularly want some more evidence for. So, you know what, enough screwing around at the table. Let's go test this kit in the wild. All right, kids, first contestant, the garrote. Wire saw. All right, full admission, I've actually never used one of these before. And we've already pretty much established this may have some secondary applications. But today, we're going to stick with wood. All right, the first test is as God intended it. Now, from what I understand, the thing you got to watch out for here is that these things can get hot. Slow and steady is probably the better body positioning. Here, let me adjust the camera, see if that helps. But so far, that worked pretty good. All right, for the wire saw, I'm decided to make it a little easy on myself and just make a bit of a makeshift bow saw. So that's about like that, and I want to keep some tension on it but not crazy, so we can cut it off about here. Yeah, let's not use the wire saw for this. This is why you have these things. Unless in a survival situation, I would pick something that maybe uses a knife. Anyways, let's see if my evil plan actually comes to pass. All right, folks, test number 2 with the trusty bow saw. Ugly looking. Anyways, now I'm going to tell you that this doesn't require a whole lot of skill level to be able to put something like this together. So yeah, anyways, let's see if this works a little bit smoother than holding it with your hands or using the finger grips. You'd probably garrote less people this way, but you can one-hand it. It's a lot smoother. What you're going to lose is some clearance. Yeah, that's fine. But it works. Next time, if I were to create a bow saw out of this, I would absolutely have a shorter stick. But I wanted to not have too much tension on it just in case I break it, because I do want to use this again because this is awfully handy. So anyways, we don't have to complete this job, but it seems to take longer because you're not putting as much pressure or downward pressure on it as you would using both arms. So test number 2, making a bow saw out of it, or at least one that's this loose, not a winner. But wire saw, yeah, it's a pass. All right, next contestant on the Kid is Right is this little guy. Apparently this bracelet is bringing paracord, a compass, a whistle, and its very own miniature ferro rod and striker. Ambitious. Right. So the Chonker Rave bracelet of survival power here. All right, let's go with some easy ones. So we have determined that mark right there, this is pretty much close to north. Let's see how this compass stacks up. Okay, do. All right. Hold it out. Say like this. Not bad. Not bad. Now, I wouldn't want to do any serious cartography here with that, but yep, close enough. Anyways, in a survival situation, and this is all you got, close enough, is horseshoes and hand grenades. All right, what's next up on the features? Okay, well, obviously, a whole bunch of paracord. So if you were to make one incision, probably with this cutting tool, you could probably use this as paracord for whatever need. All right, which is good. That makes sense. Okay, so we've got the whistle. All right, let's test this out. All right, not bad. Okay, that's a winner. Okay. That ferro rod, that ain't sparking shit. I'm not sure what they're thinking the striker is. Maybe this? You take that out. Now, I'm assuming that's for doing some kind of pulling if you're weaving something. This is for cutting, and perhaps that's a striker. Okay, first of all, the fire band's on, so we're not going to test it out. But I have my my reservations. Anyways, whistle works. Ferro rod, maybe not so much. The cutting, yes. The paracord, also yes. Okay, that's a winner. Not decoration, but at least you know, hey, it's very visible, and it'll work in a limited way. Worth having. So our final contestant is the dirt spoon. Now, I made fun of this thing when I first opened it up because, you know, look at it. But in fairness, once you actually assemble it, the head locks down properly. You've got a shovel, you've got a little pick, there's even a compass in the handle, which is handy if you need to find your way back to a real shovel. Okay, apparently there's also a saw and a bottle opener happening down there. So maybe I've underestimated Dirt Spoon. Anyways, let's go make it do Dirt Spoon things. Dirt spoon test. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. This is the future home of a fire pit. So, you know, well, you might as well get started on it now. Now, there's the fun thing. It comes loose. Now, the fun thing about this is you tighten it this way and you tighten the handle this way. So, yeah, just be aware. Anyways, pick. All right. I would say that'll work. Get some stone or something like that. I would say though, your best bet here, let's loosen it up a little bit. Just enough to do this and this. Work as a spoon. All right, dirt spoon will cut it, although I doubt that. Maybe open your cores. Dig you a real small fire pit, should you have the time. But I guess if you're screwed enough to really need this and this is your only source of anything, yeah, you got time. Or until you don't. All right, I can't recall whether I picked 3 things to review or 4 things. Did I tell you 4 things? Okay, I might have. Anyways, we'll get there. All right, kids, Field Notes Special Complaints Department Edition, because I've got a few. First up, there's the flashlight. Perfectly reasonable little flashlight, except for a small problem. It doesn't come with batteries, which seems like information you might want before you're standing beside a broken down vehicle in the dark. So that brings up something considerably more important than the flashlight. And that's, don't buy one of these kits, throw it under the seat, and assume you're prepared. You gotta open it, go through it, figure out what's missing. You know, have a basic understanding how everything works, because preparedness isn't owning the kit, it's knowing the kit. Okay, gonna stop preaching. But while we're on the subject of kits, my kit actually came zip tied closed through the zipper pulls. Normally this isn't a huge problem, except the thing I'd probably use to cut the zip tie might be inside the kit in an emergency. Okay, Ferro Rod Jr. Now, about our survival bracelet. Compass, useful. Whistle, useful. Paracord, always useful. The tiny little ferro rod, I have questions. Again, fire banned, so we're not testing it today, but fortunately the kit also comes with a proper ferro rod and striker. And also they've included some wax and lint fire starting sticks. Okay, that's pretty thoughtful. So even if Ferro Rod Jr. there turns out to be decorative, there's a grown-up version in the bag. So, all right, dirt spoon. Okay, so the dirt spoon itself, not bad for what it is, okay? The bonus features being bottle opener and the saw, and that's built into the spade. I'm gonna call this aspirational. But if you're stranded somewhere and this gets your bottle of, sanity open, have at her. Okay, so didn't test it, but an honorable mention goes to this thing. Okay, apparently this thing and this little rectangle here contains about 11 tools. I can confidently, easily identify about half of them. Okay, the rest, well, they say that's on the card, but I think we're going to save that for an exciting future game of Guess the Tool. Maybe somebody else can show me what the other little notches actually do in reality. Okay, so we also get a mosquito head net, which could actually be extremely useful. I think it is, but it also could give you Vietnam flashbacks. Okay, finally, Olympia, we need to talk. This is a spoon. This is a spoon with a couple of notches in it. There is no fork here. Unfortunately, you've given me several knives. So apparently dinner is now a problem-solving exercise. All right, complaints department closed. There you have it, folks. Gratuitous survival, medical, day pack, out in the faux rest, gratuitous footage. Can you breathe that all in? Oh wait, that's mostly smoky air. Don't breathe it all in. But I'll get you a little bit of a majestic view. All right, majestic enough. All right, folks, I've given this poor thing enough grief for today. Honestly, for something this small, there's actually a surprising amount of useful stuff packed in here. So would I buy one and blindly huck it under the seat? Nope. I'd go through it first. I'd obviously add batteries. I'd want to know what everything kind of does. I'd test the questionable stuff and replace anything that I don't immediately trust. But after doing that, you gotta ask, does this earn its place? Yeah, I think it does. And whether this one ultimately lives permanently in the Forerunner or comes along in the day pack sometimes will probably depend on the adventure. But it's small. Relatively heavy, but it's small. And it's useful. And there's enough in here that I'd rather have it with me than sitting at home for sure. Because good outdoor gear doesn't have to be expensive, tactical, or perfect. It just has to be useful when you actually need it. All right, so if you enjoyed this episode, smash like, subscribe, and stick around because we've got plenty more practical outdoor nonsense coming up. And as always, here's me keeping the coffee hot and the dirt spoon ready for action. Peace out, Scout. Arr.